Hey everyone, so this is Elementary Season 5, Episode 9. It serves you right to suffer. And the episode starts off with Joan in the house, and she's, sleeping, and then she gets a text from, I guess, Sherlock, but I guess you couldn't really see who it was. I mean, at least not, because I was watching it on my tablet, so I was like, I couldn't exactly see who sent her text, but I assumed it was Sherlock. And when she doesn't answer, next thing you know, he calls a cell phone because he has this bin of cell phones, right? And he has this bin of cell phones that he, I guess, periodically uses from time to time, and for his own personal use in regards to a specific case, I guess. And then one of the phones in the bin has this ringtone where this woman is screaming bloody murder, and basically he calls that cell phone, and it wakes Joan up. And so next thing you know, she's like, she's going downstairs trying to figure out where the blood curdling scream is coming from, and turns out it's the cell phone. And so she answers it, kind of like, skeptical and all that, and it's Sherlock on the phone, or on the other end, and so he's like, you need to come over to this crime scene I'm at, and so she does. He describes he describes the crime scene basically, but also mentions that the description of one of the perpetrators matches Shinwell, and he points out there's this necklace that was ripped off one of the perp's necks, and it looks an awful lot like the necklace Shinwell wears. The victim's name is Ricky Morales. He was part of a gang out of Queens, but was killed in the Bronx, which is what is it? SBK territory. And Sherlock thinks he was killed by an antique gun. Specifically, I think he said it was either an Asian type of gun or a Japanese type gun, or one of the Japanese had made, like way back in the day, in like early 20th century type of way back in the days. Anyway, so Sherlock thinks that the people who were reported for having fled the scene wouldn't have waited an hour after shooting Ricky, but the detective doesn't think so. And she also doesn't think that the gun used was an antique gun either, seeing as how there was a gun recovered at the scene. Joan, as they're leaving, Joan doesn't think Shinwell did it, but Sherlock thinks he did. So Sherlock and her decide to go have a face-to-face with him. They break into his apartment and find him gone with the cell phone still there. Sherlock goes to talk with Shinwell's old gang leaders. But they don't. I mean, they don't necessarily give him much of anything, other than the fact that they didn't do it, because they have alibis that overlap with the time of the crime. And I did not mean to rhyme there. Anyway, so Joan has found out, as he goes to talk to these gang leaders, that Shinwell sold a toolbox that she gave him along with the possessions inside it. As she leaves this voicemail for Sherlock, she finds Shinwell on their stoop. He says he had nothing to do with it, and he says, call the last number that I dialed myself, and I'll prove to you that I didn't do it. And it's 911. Sherlock then comes back and finds Shinwell there, and Shinwell tells him that Shinwell tells him that the only reason why he's back in SBK is because of the fact that the FBI asked him to go back under as their informant. And like, I figured something like that was up, because I mean, why would he suddenly just like, why would all of a sudden a few episodes ago he would like be so standoffish and telling Joan not to deal with him anymore or come around him anymore, if something like that wasn't up. Like, if he, I mean, they wouldn't have made him a reoccurring character if he was just gonna F up like that. Like, I don't think that would have happened. Like, I don't think the writers would have purposely done that. So I figured something like that, like he was doing something undercover for the cops or something, so that he could, you know, do something like what, as he puts it, doing something good. And he tells them, or tells Sherlock that at least that he was only out of prison a few days when he was approached by Agent Whitlock, and it was around the same time he came to Joan to ask how it had changed. So he agreed to help Whitlock, Agent Whitlock, and to go under back in SBK and inform on them, basically. And when at the scene of the crime, Shinwell reveals that a kid must have heard the shots and came looking, then called his brother Marquise, who is an SBK leader. Shinwell and Talboy disposed of the body, or, well, no, I don't think they did. Based off of what's said later, I thought, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, so as they're, you know, trying to evade the cops, Shinwell throws the gun away. Joan then says that they will talk with Whitlock, since the next meeting Shinwell has with him is in a week, and the testing of the gun would reveal his prints were on it in 3 days. So Joan goes to talk to Whitlock by herself, but is told Shinwell won't get help because Whitlock never registered Shinwell as an informant due to a failed relationship with an old informant, or old informant's misdeeds. Somehow I was like, that's kind of bullshit. I was like, my spidey senses were going off. I was like, no, that doesn't sound like something like that. I mean, that just sounds like pure BS to me. So, and I was like, you know, it sounds like he's dirty, like Whitlock's dirty. So I was like, you know what, I don't believe that Whitlock at all. I don't think he's telling the truth at all. So when Joan comes back and tells Shinwell and Sherlock about what Whitlock had told them, Shinwell is visibly upset about it. They tell him that they will find the real killer in the time they have left, and Sherlock thinks that the gang Ricky was part of killed him because there was no sign of a struggle. Sherlock decides to find out more on Ricky, and Joan goes to the precinct to learn more about the gang Ricky was part of. Shinwell then goes with Sherlock to stake out the apartment Ricky shared with his girlfriend, and you know, as they're waiting for the girlfriend to leave, so that they can break in, Sherlock asks why Shinwell would roll around his old gang and work for Whitlock on a vague promise to do good. Shinwell says 10 years before, he had gotten popped, I guess you would say, for another crime, and the DA, I think he said it was drug related. I don't remember if it was cocaine or heroin or what, but I remember specifically that it was drug related. Anyway, so the DA gave him the choice to wear a wire and write out SBK for a deal that would cut his time in half, but he refused the offer. And while in prison, he realized SBK didn't care about him, after seeing the guys that he brought into the gang were starting to get put into prison as well, along with the guys that those guys brought into the gang, and etc., etc., etc. Ricky's girlfriend then leaves, and they break into the apartment. Shinwell then finds a meeting on the calendar that says at midnight there will be a trade by Gustavo. Sherlock finds pills and Shinwell realizes there's a monthly meeting with this ZX. This person who has the initial ZX at 8 a.m. And then even the label is mostly torn off, they can see that the doctor's last name for the that prescribed the prescription has the last name starting with an X on the pill bottom. Sherlock thinks that Ricky was in therapy, so as they're doing that, Joan goes through is going through case files, and as she does this, the detective from before comes up and tells her that she is taking Sherlock up on his offer to help. So she went to Gregson, and he helped her fast track the prints on the gun. So they will have a suspect by the next day. Sherlock, or Joan then calls Sherlock, or calls or texts Sherlock about the news, and as all that's happening, Shinwell and Sherlock have found a therapist whose name is Dr. Xanthopoulos, but she doesn't really cooperate at first. It isn't until Sherlock reveals to her that if the gang members really did kill Ricky, because he was talking to her every week or every month or whatever, it's not going to be that long until they come after her. So that's when she decides to talk. Ricky had started seeing her 6 months before, or six months prior, and what prompted it was a few months before he had started seeing her, he was busted with a kilo of heroin in the trunk of his car, and to avoid prosecution, he agreed to become an informant. And Ricky was having panic attacks because he felt guilty for ratting out his fellow gang members. And lo and behold, Whitlock recruited Ricky as well. So obviously, it's not a coincidence that both Ricky and Shinwell were recruited by the same guy. It's not. I mean, it's too much of a coincidence. Joan and they were busted pretty much the exact same way. I mean, yes, Shinwell was busted with drugs 10 years prior, and Ricky was busted with drugs about a year prior. They're basically busted. They were taken down pretty much the exact same way though. Like with drugs, and asked to rat out their gang members for either a lesser plea deal or no jail time at all, whatever. It's pretty much the same exactly. So yeah, it's no coincidence. Anyway, so when Joan comes home, Sherlock tells her he is confident in knowing that Whitlock killed Ricky. Whitlock's grandfather served in World War II in the Pacific, so it wouldn't be hard for Whitlock to get an antique gun. Excuse me. Shinwell then tells Joan of Whitlock's surprise visit a few weeks back, but Joan doesn't know why Ricky was killed. Sherlock posits that Ricky wanted out of the arrangement, or perhaps he threatened to expose Whitlock. Who knows? Shinwell says if it wasn't Whitlock, it has to be the gang Ricky was part of. But Joan doesn't think so, because the entire day she's been, looking into the gang Ricky was part of, and a few months ago, or a few months prior, his gang had been hit. Like the stash that they had, whether it was guns, money, drugs, or any combination of the three, they were taken. And while Ricky's gang suspected it was a rival gang who had done it, it was actually, as we'll find out later, it was actually Whitlock. But given at this point in time, We don't know this, so I mean, if the gang Ricky was part of assumed it was a rival gang, they wouldn't necessarily um, start a gang war, because they can't afford to do that right now, because they're still, as Joan says, licking their wounds. So it's not smart for them to start a gang war when their supplies are, I guess you could say, depleted and all this stuff. So and even if they did kill him, they wouldn't have dumped him on SPK territory, because, like I said, it would have created a gang war and all that stuff. So yeah, so that reintroduced Whitlock, but Joan still doesn't know why he killed Ricky in SPK territory, since he could have killed Ricky anywhere. Shinwell gets a text from Tallboy to talk, and Joan tries to advise him not to go, since Whitlock can just tell SPK that he's an informant and never get his hands dirty. But Shinwell decides to go anyway. Once there, Tallboy gives him another gun, and tells him not to lose it because of what Shinwell did with the previous gun, and tells him of tells him of a job coming up, and Shinwell says that he's good to go do this. Shinwell then calls Joan on the way out, once he's out of the building, and tells her he knows Whitlock killed Ricky and why he did it in SPK territory. Joan goes to talk with Whitlock shortly thereafter, which tells him that she knows that he isn't gathering intel on the gangs via the informants to bring them down. What he's doing is he's trying to rob the gangs blind, and she reveals what she knows, tells him to get Shinwell out of trouble, and they will talk with prosecutors about making sure he isn't in gen pop with other gang members due to his previous involvement with the gang members. But he doesn't budge. After leaving, Joan gets a call from Whitlock, and says he still won't clear Shinwell because Shinwell deserves to be in prison, because in his mind, once a gang member, always a gang member. But he will let her come back and get the gun used to kill Ricky, then proceeds to shoot himself in the head with it. Shinwell says that he will still be going to jail, but Joan doesn't want to give up yet on whether or not that's actually true. Sherlock then asks Marcus if his brother, later on in the station, if his brother would revert back, because Marcus's brother, if y'all don't remember, is a former convict, and so Sherlock asks Marcus if his brother would revert back to his old life if he was, put back into prison on a technicality. And Marcus believes that in 5 seconds, yes, his brother would revert back to his old life. Sherlock then goes to Shinwell and tells him that he wiped the gun of his prince, so that Sherlock can give him a second chance. I was like, "Aw, Sherlock, you big softy!" Like, damn. Anyway, so that's basically the whole episode. I liked it. I really liked it, actually, because I liked how they centered it around Shinwell, and how they knew he was innocent, even though he's had this checkered past, and set out to prove it. And I really like that. Unlike the whole storyline in Rosewood, hint, nudge, nudge. So, anyway, I'm still kind of bitter over that. I'm sorry. I'm still very bitter about that whole storyline in Rosewood. I'm sorry. Still very bitter about that. So, I'm sorry. Let's just get back to the show at hand here. But I like the whole fact that they centered on Shinwell, and how how they showed that despite what he's done in the past, he is willing to change and innocent and of what he's going to be implicated for. So I just really liked how they did everything and all that. And I felt like it was a good episode. It wasn't forced to the point where they couldn't have figured out who did it within an hour. So, because sometimes when a conspiracy like this happens, like when a conspiracy like this happens where the person you think might have done it didn't actually do it, it usually takes it usually takes 2 hours instead of 1 hour. But it felt like it could have easily been done within an hour or so. Personally, that's just me. But anyway, so next week on Elementary, I'm pretty sure this is the actual season finale or a mid-season finale, because it looks like the next episode after that will be sometime between January 4th and January 8th or something like that. So I think that this next week is the mid-season finale. But anyway, so next week on Elementary, there's a murder that is pinned on Joan, and someone is using her credentials to do it. Now the DEA is after her for illegal prescription, illegally prescribing prescriptions. So they have to get. I'm not sure exactly if they're going to be able to finish the whole, figure out who is framing her within an hour. I think this is going to be one of those things where you can't finish it within an hour, and so they're going to end on a cliffhanger. I think what they're going to do is they're going to find out who did it. Excuse me. They're going to find out who did it, but they're not going to tell us who it is, and it's going to be they're going to just when they're about to reveal who it is, the screen goes black and everything, and then that's where we're going to start off at on when we come back. And that's what I think is going to happen, because I don't think it's going to be one of those things where it was like last night's episode where we unraveled the conspiracy and all that stuff within an hour, like I said. So my prediction, though, is, because I have a prediction, I predict that it's going to be someone who's close to Joan, and who she least suspects. Someone like either a former colleague or like a former colleague who was very close to her, or just a very close friend, or someone close to her. I don't know who it is, because we haven't seen that many people in Joan's life. The only people we've seen are her mother, her sister, and I think her brother, because I think she has a brother as well, but I don't remember exactly if we've seen him. But I definitely remember that we've seen her mother and her sister, and I'm pretty sure we've seen her brother. So I don't necessarily think it's anyone in her immediate family, like her sister, brother, mother, father, or uncle, but I mean, still someone. I mean, it could possibly still be someone who is her family, who's related to her and very close to her. But either way, I think it might just be a friend that she views as a sister, or it could be. But it's just, I really think that it could be someone who's very close to her, or it could not be. Who knows? And what could happen is it could be related to last night's episode. Though I don't really know how, but I mean, that's just a thought that passed in mind that it could be somehow related to last night's episode. But anyway, but I'm still more so thinking that it's someone that's closer to Joan rather than it being part of last night's episode. So that's my prediction. And that's really all I have for elementary today. So I will see you guys next week, next Monday, on elementary, and I'll see you guys Thursday for Vikings. Bye.